Here's an interesting question. This is actually something I've been thinking about the last couple of days as I'm preparing actually a panel where we're going to have contemplative scholars from the mystical Christian and mystical Islamic tradition and mystical Judaistic Jewish tradition, as well as several representatives of Buddhism, and there's I have a hard time. So there's either two things, there's one thing, or there's nothing at all. Okay, and I'm not sure which it is.
Either.
Okay, so let's start with zero. So zero is easy. That's emptiness, right? Okay. And then there can be one thing which is sort of you're pursuing emptiness, or you're trying to be in the state of emptiness, but you're self-identifying, you're self-reifying yourself, or there's us, like that's the there's one of us, right? Which is possibly consistent with pantheism or something like that. But then there's this other thing that you see frequently in the traditions, and I think if you go back to maybe the original Pali Canon, you can see this a bit. At least that's what I've read. That there's this emphasis on love, virtue, love, compassion, and that when you're doing this mind practice, there's a little bit of that energy that you need to ground yourself in. And an interesting question, so where would you, is that something that you feel like is just exuded from, for lack of a better word, the sort of the ground state of reality, and we just don't feel that? People like me, very cold-hearted person like myself, I never feel that because my mind is busy getting in the way, sort of developing this narrative, all this fun stuff, neuroscientist at Princeton and so on. Or is that actually something that is less fundamental than that state that you arrive at when you fully realize emptiness? And it is sort of a crutch that you use to get to that state. How would you, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Your struggle is not separate from realization. The struggle you're going through as a neuroscientist is so important. What will happen? I don't know. But I know that something will happen, and already has, or you wouldn't be doing this. So how each person comes to the recognition that there is fundamental oneness, at the same time fundamental emptiness, that's in a way logical impossibility, but actualizing, one understands that oneness. And all the paths that lead to that experience involve struggle, and the struggle is where the energy comes from. So for example, right effort, right? Mm-hmm. Right effort. Sure. I teach a course in Syracuse called Deep Presence. Deep Presence. So people come who have not meditated before, most of them, and they want to feel better about themselves. There's a sense that they're dealing a lot with anxiety and great stress in their lives, and they want to learn how to be present, because somehow if they can be present, then they won't be so caught up in regret about the past and fear about the future. Okay, we all have that. So then they start meditating, and we talk and we have these discussion periods. And last night, one of them said she has cerebral palsy and has a lot of trouble speaking and can't sit absolutely still. She sits in a wheelchair And she's been doing great, you know, and finally I understood what she was getting at, you know. I've been doing this now, and I don't really feel any more peaceful than when I began. And so, you know, from one point of view, I could say, okay, you're a failure. I could say, this course isn't for you, go find something else. But in fact, it is for her. That experience of keeping on, exploring what it means to find that, just that moment in 20 minutes or half an hour, you know, of struggling, constantly struggling, even just to sit still for her, it's a huge thing. I told her she's way ahead of the class. She's really, that struggle is the whole of it for her. And each one of us has something like that to contend with. And because of it, we can open. We can learn what it is to be present to, call it oneness, call it emptiness, doesn't matter.
Yeah, in my own sort of very underdeveloped formal meditation practice, I've definitely noticed a connection between external events and my ability to meditate. And you talk about someone with cerebral palsy, and she's got something to help her focus. Yeah. You know, and I've certainly noticed. Fortunately, haven't had to contend with that, but you know, sometimes I say something I later regret. You know, realize that embarrassment or whatnot. Go sit on the cushion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, I think she's the best in the class because she doesn't try to hide anything because she can't. And a lot of people are trying to look good, you know, like, oh, here I am doing meditation. I hope nobody notices that I'm just thinking and worrying and, you know, drifting off and, it's fantastic. This being a Buddha is just great, but...
It's important to look good when you meditate.
She just expresses, you know, she's just terrific. Everything she says is what the class needs to hear, and they feel such a sense of relief when she articulates the difficulty that we all have. Yeah. It's not a matter of meditation solves your difficulties. It's not a matter of meditation as a way of transcending your difficulties. The struggle is what opens the door. And we, you know, sometimes we even feel we're pounding against a huge, thick iron wall that will never give. And I don't know, sometimes you just get bored, you know, or you knock yourself out. And then you find out there's no wall there.